You now call a council meeting of March 17th, 2020. Happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone to order. Roll call, please.
Okay, Ms. Bourne.
Here.
Mr. Coolman.
Here.
Ms. Materney.
Here.
Mr. Matuzak.
Here.
Mr. McCarthy is not here. Mr. Smith.
Here.
And Mr. Van Hoosen.
Here. Please stand if you're able and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The minutes of council of March 3rd, 2020.
All right, I have the copy of the minutes from March 3rd, 2020, and I will make a motion to approve the minutes of the city council meeting held on March 3rd, 2020, so we're going to dispense with their reading.
I second.
Roll call.
Okay, Ms. Bourne.
Yes.
Mr. Coolman.
Yes.
Ms. Materney.
Yes.
Mr. Matuzak.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Abstain.
Mr. Van Hoosen.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have no special reports tonight. Letter. Oh.
I have something, a couple things I want to make mention of. In the charter, in section 390 of the meetings, it says the council shall meet in the council chambers at such times as may be prescribed. Its ordinances, resolutions, or rules. Meetings shall be held at least twice in the calendar month, except during the months of July and August. The council may disperse with one of its meetings. All the meetings of council, while regular or special, shall be open to the public, provided however the council may hold an executive session if a majority of the quorum so determines by a roll call vote to hold such a session at a regular or special meeting for the sole purpose of consideration of the following matters: consideration of appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of employee or official, purchase of sale of property, pending or imminent litigation, or court action, collective bargaining issues or preparations for and conducting negotiations or bargaining sessions, matters required to be kept confidential by federal, state law or rules, and specialized details of security arrangements where disclosure might reveal information that could be used for the purpose of committing or avoiding prosecution for a violation of the law. I also would like to make mention, I want to go on the record, and I want to say that this meeting really should not be taking place. We should not have meetings of this sort until the state restrictions are lifted. I really am already concerned about this. I did contact the mayor this morning. I do not believe this should be treated as an emergency measure. Sorry, Matt.
Do we want, just to defer to the president of council, we can talk about now, or we can talk about it during your report, so you probably have some discussion on that.
Yeah, I guess we can move it up and talk at this point. I know with the everything that's going on across the nation with the COVID-19, we've seen the recommendations that are coming from our governor as well as from our president regarding this. And I just wanted to hear you on some of your concerns. I know that we did speak as well, so I appreciate the conversation that we had. But with the committee meetings, I believe that I will defer to our chairs of our committee on what we will do if you're going to hold your committee meeting or not. I'm going to make the recommendation to potentially cancel those meetings. As the chair of the public utilities, I've talked with the administration. There isn't really anything that's pressing that will be coming to our committee, so tentatively we'll be canceling that here this month during this time as we have to limit the grouping of individuals to help reduce the spread of this so we don't overwhelm our healthcare system. So I would make that recommendation that between now and our next council meeting, whenever that may be, which will be the next step here, the committee meetings, if there's anything urgent to consider actually postponing those until April. With that being said, for the charter, we are required to have 2 meetings per month, but I'll leave this open to council for discussion on potentially rescheduling the April 7th meeting at a later date. As of this time, there's only one item that would be potentially on that agenda. We could potentially schedule this for prior to the April 21st meeting or at another date, but I will leave that as a discussion for council.
I'm in favor of postponing it until after April 15th.
It's June 15th, it sounds like it may be.
That is well put.
So I'm not hearing too much discussion here. If anybody would be opposed, I believe, and I'm looking at our law director here on this, we could potentially have both meetings the same day, just 2 separate times, or is that kind of a loose interpretation of what we would be able to do?
You can. I'll stand, so I can't, because I couldn't see that end of the dais. So the Councilwoman Bourne's reading of Section 3 of the Charter, Section 3.9, that is accurate. You have another section within your charter which I believe could be applicable in this situation, and that would be Section 3-10. 3-10 states that under powers of council, the power to make such general regulations as the council may deem necessary in the public interest. Other than that, your charter does not give you a lot of flexibility. But in speaking with President of Council last week, your dates and times of your council meetings are established by ordinance. So council does have some authority there to modify those dates and times, to kick them back. You also have in your ordinances the power to adjourn said meetings to a later date. So that would be my suggestion. If you're looking at least moving to the end of April, you could hold those meetings back to back. You could convene and adjourn it to a later date and continue it essentially to a time where maybe we're under fewer restrictions, as we're trying pretty desperately at this point to comply with all the regulations that are coming down from a state and federal level. So with that being said, I think you would be well within your authority to move those. We will certainly, anything, if committees are not scheduled, the staff will work diligently to give council, all of council, every piece of information we would have given to that committee. And we would just simply be looking to bypass the committee at council's pleasure to consider any actions that need to be taken on contracts or things like that would normally go to committee. We'll just go to all of council with all the same amount of detail as what we otherwise would do.
I would say not to do that, because then we're ignoring all of the council committee chairs and their committees and what they're about. I don't think that we should be skipping the committees.
Well, that's, again, as I stated, that's council, up to council's pleasure. Administration will work within any confine council gives to try and accommodate whatever your schedules are. But President Smith accurately stated what Bridget and I told him this afternoon. Right now, we have one item that would be going to service this month, that would be going to council on the 7th, and it will not significantly delay that project if you move that to the end of the month, at least so we can all see what those regulations are at that point.
I guess I could stand, so I want to see me too. Has anybody, any municipality issued any, questions to the Attorney General as far as guidance to, because my understanding of the sunshine laws are, they're basically court rulings, judicial decisions. We're obviously in a kind of unprecedented area of law right now. Has anybody issued, any municipalities issued questions to the Attorney General? Are they in the process of issuing an opinion to kind of give us guidance on what we can do as far as
Sure. I am not privy to what other communities have asked the Attorney General to answer. I can tell you that on March 13th, the Attorney General issued a guidance letter to the Ohio Municipal Attorneys Association. The guidance letter, there are currently 2 Attorney General opinions on point on this that state, no, you cannot teleconference, you can't broadcast, it has to be open to the public. Our charter mandates all meetings open to the public. So I would never advise that we do anything to restrict that. The guidance letter, however, referenced that in times such as this, current public health emergency as issued by the Director of Health for the state, that if you could work out some sort of telecommunication conferencing to broadcast the meeting, that could be helpful. He did not overrule the previous opinions prohibiting, say, a council member from appearing via Skype or telephone or
I
something.
would just add that I've seen the report, the letter. I would just also add that I do know personally that Public Housing Authority Council, one on the dais at this moment, several cities and several counties and several townships have asked for opinions, and the very vague, very unclear letter that she referenced is what we got.
I'm assuming we're kind of lower on the total bill as far as things they're addressing at this point.
I did receive a copy of that letter here this afternoon and read through it, and I can say that what I took from that is, here's some suggestions, but you have to go through what your law director has stated, but we're not giving you any this is non-legal binding advice.
We can get that to all council view.
Happy to send it. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't.
I just did it right now.
Okay.
I don't think one person up here, and I think I can speak for all of you, wants to skirt their responsibility as a councilman. I respect all of you. But I think that we all should be aware that we should be looking at a good date. I would say he wants to go after April 15th. I'm fine with that, Jim. That sounds good to me. I mean, just give me an example.
What I would suggest, if it's okay with the rest of council, is that we adjourn the April 7th meeting to April 21st at, say, 6 p.m. to have that 30 minutes before the next scheduled one, so we can still have 2 meetings in the month of April. They're just back-to-back meetings.
I have no problem with that. I think that's a great tentative plan.
You want to go with that to comply with the mandate of the charter stuff?
That would secure 2 meetings in the month of April.
You said we have the authority to change that, and we could draft a resolution or something that just has a 3-month sunset provision in it, that it expires after a certain amount of time.
So we have from what I understand, we have the authority to change the dates and times,
That's correct.
but not the authority to change that we have to have 2 months or 2 meetings in the same month. That would have to go to a charter change and a vote of the public at that time. So there's,
The public's not allowed to vote right now.
yeah. I showed up to my polling place this morning. They wouldn't let me in for some reason. I guess,
So you made a suggestion.
so that would be a motion.
I second that.
All right, so we have a motion and a second discussion. Roll call.
Okay, motion, Ms.
The
Bowen.
motion is to
Oh, sorry.
Oh, hi, Tim.
The motion is to adjourn the April 7th council meeting at 6:30 p.m. and move that to April 21st at 6 p.m., which would be 30 minutes prior to the next council meeting.
To meet the charter's 2 meeting requirement.
correct.
You're right. Right.
Understood.
Roll call.
Okay, Ms. Bourne,
Yes.
Mr. Coolman,
Yes.
Ms. Materney,
Yes.
Mr. Matuzak,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Van Hoosen.
Yes.
Thank you.
And Tim, prior to coming here, I did make the recommendation of leaving the committees up to the committee chairs on if they're going to hold them or not. But trying to take the lead, I am going to be postponing or canceling the March meeting for the public utilities for the time being during the recommendations that we received from our governor as well as our president. That's it for anything on my end.
Okay, very good. As I was saying, we have letters, communication, assistance, concerns. I don't think we have any. The administrative reports, I do have a brief statement I want to read, just probably because we're going to put it on social media, but I want to kind of just say something to the community. First and foremost, we want to thank the community for your cooperation and patience as we all respond to the COVID-19 and we work to minimize the spread of the virus. Our number one priority, of course, is the health and safety of our community and city employees. The city, especially the staff, is diligently following instructions from the federal government, the governor's office, the CDC, the Wood County Health Department, and the Wood County EMA, and the Ohio Department of Health. The administration and staff has been in constant contact with those entities to make sure we're in compliance and that we're doing everything we can. The state of Ohio has taken very aggressive actions to slow the momentum of the virus. The reasons behind these actions is to limit person-to-person contact. Tough decisions being made by governments at all levels will hopefully reduce the severity of impact to our region. Now is the time for the Perrysburg community to come together and support each other. During this time of crisis, we must remember to be kind, patient, and flexible, which I think for the most part everyone has been. Now more than ever, we need to lend a hand to those in need and ask to help when we need it. We ask that everyone be a good neighbor and be supportive of each other as best they can. Think of your neighbors when you make difficult decisions. Continue to support local businesses, which have been severely impacted by what's happening. Order delivery and purchase takeout. Buy gift cards to use later. Practice social distancing, but make sure to check on family members, your neighbors, the elderly, the disabled, and those who are extremely vulnerable. If you are fortunate enough to have extra supplies, please share with your neighbors and those in need. The city will continue to evaluate additional steps to help the community. We will continue to share new information and developments on our social media, on the city's webpage, and through local media outlets. We will continue to take directives from the medical professionals and state government, as we have been doing, to ensure that every action taken has helped to minimize the spread of the virus and keep people safe. If we all work together, we can do this. I am confident we can get through this unprecedented and uncertain time. The city is here, and all of council and the administration is here to serve you, the residents of this community. We will continue to operate, and we will continue to be helpful to those in need. I just want to make sure that council appreciate all that council has been doing so far during this time, and your cooperation, so it's very much appreciated. I have one other thing to report. Right before this all happened, we received the DORA request from the downtown merchants, and that we will get information to. We'll make that available if you need it, want it. I think we've gotten it to news media and to council members. We have not had a chance to review it internally. We know that there will be a meeting with 30 people here, so we're not doing that. So we haven't started the calendar yet, but we have got it, so I want to make sure that's on the record. I have nothing else. Administrator?
No report.
Finance Director?
I just, one thought that came to mind as we're discussing schedules, and that is on May 5th, we should normally have our joint meeting with township trustees regarding the cemetery. Now, it might be premature to take any action at this point, but just kind of keep that in mind as we go forward, that, you know, we may get to the middle of April and have to make some phone calls, and, you know, again, it's set by ORC, but I think we have, in situations like this, we have plenty of leeway to do whatever we need to do, so.
That's a better idea towards the end of April if we're not have to reschedule it.
Right. So that's
Director
just a
Long?
thought.
No report.
President of Council?
Thank you, Your Honor. The only thing I just wanted to say is I've appreciated the work that the city has done throughout this over the last couple of weeks and working with them, the administration and the staff on how the city's going to handle the response. So everyone has done an exemplary job, and it's nice to see us working together instead of working against each other. So
Thank you very much. Yes, everybody's worked very hard to take everything into account and still serve the residents, so I appreciate that. Finance and Economic Development?
Thank you, Mayor. Going back to your comment on the DORA, can we assume that you're going to advance that to council since you?
Oh, yeah, I do not think it's my role to hold it in perpetuity or to decline it. So we will submit it to council. We just we didn't want to start declining.
Okay, because I thought the last time it had to be forwarded to council by the mayor, or the council couldn't consider it.
Yeah.
that's correct.
Right.
The mayor has
So this
The mayor can choose to hold it and not ever submit it. I am going to submit it, and then the calendar starts.
If we were to do that at this point, it would.
I might have 30 people, and you'd have to have a committee meeting.
So you might have submitted.
At some point, yes. So that's what I was trying to say, yes. I do not feel it's my position to decide that.
This isn't on time right now.
Correct. But
Due to unforeseen circumstances.
right.
Okay, good, thank you. You have a committee report here. And I'm gonna kind of just lean over it tonight. We had a Finance and Economic Development Committee meeting on March 10th. Everyone's got a copy of it, they're available out there. So we went through our usual routine of the Finance Director's report, the Tax Commissioner's report. We touched on the amended budget, which we're going to have this legislation tonight. And then we talked briefly about the solar power and light first solar review. So I spoke to that for the most part. Then under some other business, we went into an executive session. So, what I've got here tonight is two pieces of legislation. Does anyone wants ordinance, wants a resolution?
Mr. Machuzek, could you separate them,
Separate,
please?
that was my question. Okay. That being the case, I would like to introduce ordinance 3, 2020. And move the rules be suspended to allow for its reading by number and title only, and to dispense with the third reading.
Second?
Roll call.
Okay, Ms. Bourne.
No.
Okay, Mr. Coolman.
Yes.
Ms. Materney.
Yes.
Mr. Matuzak.
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen.
Yes.
Ordinance number 3, 2020, amending ordinance number 47, 2019, to amend appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures and revenues for the year beginning January 1, 2020, and ending December 31, 2020, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. I move that ordinance 3, 2020 be passed as an emergency measure.
Second?
I have discussion. Thank you, Mike. I should say that I don't believe that this should be treated as an emergency measure particularly. The purpose of the 3 meetings is to give the opportunity for the public to comment on the budget. Given the coronavirus, the public has no opportunity to do this. I will also state, I looked this up, the Ohio Revised Code 731.17, as a general 3 reading rule, ORC 117.38 requires financial reports from public offices to the state auditor within 60 days after close of fiscal year or 150 days if they use generally accepted accounting principles.
Ms. Alkire, she's citing Ohio Revised Code. Mr. what we can and can't do. Do you have an issue with what we're doing?
I do not have an issue with waiving the third reading on the appropriations action.
I would add that the law requires that we have this passed by April 1st, or we are no longer allowed to operate the government.
And we've already deferred our next meeting until after April 15th, right?
Well, next one would be after April 1st anyways.
Right. Well, that's the point.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do have a couple quick questions here. I know, were we able to put on the amended budget here to find the 35,000 and the 47,000?
Yes, Councilman
Yes.
Smith, I let Dave Krebs know that we erroneously did not carry over the original 35,000 for the pavilion infrastructure that both he and I missed, and we read the budget several times, I think. So we did include that, as well as the request for an additional 47,000 for said pavilion due to the cost of the infrastructure that's coming in, as well as the request by administration to reallocate 100,000 of the 600,000 additional dollars for resurfacing towards building HVAC issues that has just occurred within the last week and a half.
And I would add that the document that's attached to the ordinance that we're approving tonight reflects those changes.
So, because the next step I was going to ask is, do we need to have a motion to add that on there, or is that already?
It's in the document that's attached, so.
And then another question, I know this came up quite a bit during this last election regarding the school resource officer for the high school and the junior high. And I know that there's some, I don't know what happened in the board meeting last night.
They approved it last night.
Okay. And I'm assuming that we have those in the budget as well. And
There is a salary line item for the sworn officer that will become the school resource officer during the school year, and when the school is not in session, that officer then goes back onto road patrol.
Which is already happening.
Which is already happening.
That line
With our
is
current
about
estimate.
$65,000, right?
Yes. The salary, we have budgeted at $65,000 because it would be a seasoned officer that would be the school resource officer. It would not be somebody new that we hired in off the street.
I think it was in there at the last finance committee meeting.
And it passed, I think, 4-1 last night at the school.
There's one other final question I was going to ask as well. Is I know that this last year we had an issue regarding overtime for our officers with the parades. I'm assuming that's still going to be taken care of again before the holiday parade.
What we allocated for overtime in the police division would allow for that, barring any unforeseen circumstance, which could be taking place as we speak, depending on the COVID-19 and our staffing levels. Eat into some of that overtime for outside activities.
Okay. So we're going to have any issues, and I know that there was the conversation of the parade having to reimburse the city. Is that still something that we're looking at, or is that something that the city is looking to?
And you were discussing the holiday parade
Yes.
versus the other
Yes.
parade activities that take place. In fact, I spoke with Mr. Ruffner today, and he was going to attend this council meeting, but he felt it was probably not the wisest thing to do. He thought he would come into council in the next couple months and make the same request that he made last year to this council regarding the security for the parade.
Roll call.
Okay, Mr. Matuzak,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Coolman,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. Bourne,
No.
Ms. Materney,
Yes.
and Mr. Van Huzen.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. I now would like to introduce Resolution 19, 2020. Let's see what my got set up. And move that the rules be suspended to allow for its reading by number and title only, and to dispense with the second and third readings.
Second.
Roll call.
Okay, Ms. Bourne,
Yes.
Mr. Coolman,
Yes.
Ms. Materney,
Yes.
Mr. Matuzak,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen.
Yes.
Resolution number 19, 2020, authorizing an agreement with Delta Dental for the provision of dental insurance coverage for the city of Perrysburg for the period of April 1, 2020 through March 31, 2021, and declaring an emergency.
Okay, I move that Resolution 19, 2020 be passed as an emergency measure.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Okay, Mr. Van Huzen,
Yes.
and Ms. Materney,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. Bourne,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Matuzak,
Yes.
Mr. Coolman.
Yes.
Thank you.
That would be all for me there, then.
Thank you very much. Service committee.
We were supposed to have a committee meeting March 25th. That one item on the agenda, will that be important enough, or can we?
That item could wait until the next council meeting. And as the law director explained, what we were considering doing, if the committee chair is okay with it, is prepare the legislation packet that we would normally prepare for you for the committee meeting, send that out to you in lieu of having a committee meeting, see if there's any questions or concerns by any committee members via phone, email, that we can address, and then have that item move on to city council at the next council meeting.
I'm okay with that if my fellow committee members are.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's fine.
It's fine with me.
Oh, I guess I should have waited till you
No, it's
answered
okay.
them.
Yeah,
I'm
you
sorry,
get two anyway, so.
That's fine. No minute, I'm sorry. No meeting until April.
Something.
Yeah.
That's all right. We'll get that information out. Very good. Thank you. Safety committee.
So I'm gonna take thank you, Your Honor, I'm gonna take the approach that we keep this on the calendar until the administration determines that we don't need to have it. With 3 committee members and usually 2 or 3 public members available, we still fall within the CDC recommendation. So that's kind of my position, that we can cancel it pretty easily. We'll just wait and see if there's anything on the agenda. But that would be, a regular meeting would be on Tuesday, March 24th at 6 p.m.
Thank you. Recreation committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a report. Recreation Committee for the regular meeting of March 10th, 2020. Present Chairwoman Deborah Bourne, Councilors Jan Materney and Jonathan Smith, City Administrator Bridget Cabot, Law Director Laura Alkire. Deborah Bourne called the meeting to order at 6:45 in council chambers. After the Pledge of Allegiance, citizen concerns were requested. Mark Weber, 836 Cherry Street, reported that in response to a request from Judy Hagan, program coordinator of Keep America Beautiful, has prepared a report on the history of the city of Perrysburg's parks. He presented a copy of the report to each of the 3 committee members. Mr. Weber added that if the members of PRAC want copies, he will find a way to get to them. Ms. Bourne noticed that $25,000 has been placed in the 2020 budget for Riverside Park cannon stands. In addition, the 4 individuals who have already agreed to donate $5,000 each toward the stands, 2 additional donors have come forward with a similar offer to do the same. There was no information on the inclusive playground. There was no information on the splash pad proposed after Rotary or Rivercrest Park. Ms. Bourne asked Ms. Cabot to discuss the administration's request for additional funding for the Rotary Park Pavilion. Ms. Cabot reported that because the cost of the pavilion will be higher than expected, the Perrysburg Rotary Club is asking the city to give them an additional $47,000. Chairwoman Bourne asked Mr. Smith for his opinion. Mr. Smith replied to him, many of the additional costs would address future needs for the park. Ms. Cabot stated that some of the additional sidewalk would be convenience to future years of the pavilion, plus it would be expanded to serve the proposed inclusive playground, which would be immediately to the north. Ms. Materney stated that this seems reasonable because the park will be probably heavily used. Ms. Bourne asked Ms. Cabot how Ms. Cabot wished to proceed with this. The latter replied that she would like the committee to recommend to council that this item be placed in the 2020 budget as a placeholder. Approved 2-0, Smith abstaining. Ms. Cabot then discussed a series of budget items involving recreation. A lengthy discussion followed, but no action was taken by the committee. Steve Shives, the 24568 Tracy Road, Perrysburg Township, is the district vice president of the YMCA of Greater Toledo. He came forward to answer any questions that the committee may have about the contract Perrysburg has with the YMCA to manage the municipal swimming pool. Ms. Bourne stated that many of her constituents have complained because the pool opens late and closes early. Mr. Shives responded that the late openings are often caused by cold weather. The early closing is caused primarily by the loss of potential staff who either go back to college or in high school have extracurricular activities which prevent them from working. Ms. Materney asked why the pool cannot be open over Labor Day weekend. Mr. Shives responded that the cost would be prohibitive. The committee agreed that it wished that the future legislation involving the pool would require no annual increase in costs be higher than 3%. Ms. Oukhire agreed to abide by this request. There was no PRAC report because PRAC will not meet until April. Chairwoman Bourne asked Damon Gorse, 1533 Riverview, who is representing Perrysburg Youth Lacrosse, to come to the podium. Mr. Gorse described how successful Perrysburg Youth Lacrosse had been and wanted to say that the team needs a freestanding multi-purpose sports wall, which could be used by the participants in either sports, soccer, volleyball, and tennis. Chairwoman Warren asked how much such a wall would cost. Mr. Gorse responded that it is on the East Coast and would cost $15,000 to $20,000. Here, probably less, but he wanted to offer the known figure. Here is a discussion here following a discussion of possible practice venues into which the Perrysburg Youth Lacrosse might expand. Mr. Gorse stated that it would be ideal to have on the west side or another on the west side of town. Tim McGrady, 401 West Front Street, came to the podium and introduced himself as the new president of Perrysburg Amateur Baseball and Softball Commission, PABSC. Mr. Grady stated that he did not have any action items but wanted to introduce himself to the committee. Chairwoman Warren thanked him for coming. The meeting adjourned at 7:24 p.m. The next meeting is April 14th, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. Report prepared by Deborah Warren, Chairwoman, March 15th, 2020. I will make a note and say that I will keep an eye out and also about my meeting, but for now it is scheduled for March 14th, or I'm sorry, April 14th at 6:30. And that's something to introduce. I have a resolution to introduce. I'd like to introduce Resolution 2020, and move that the rules be suspended to allow for its reading by number and title only, and dispersed with the second and third readings.
Second. Roll call.
Okay, Ms. Bourne,
Yes.
Mr. Coolman,
Yes.
Ms. Materney,
Yes.
Mr. Matuzak,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen.
Yes.
Okay, resolution number 2020, authorizing an agreement with the Fort Meigs YMCA for the management of the city swimming pool and declaring an emergency.
I move that Resolution 2020 be passed as an emergency measure.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Okay, Mr. Van Huzen,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Matuzak,
Yes. I slept through the discussion. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Good one, real quick. There's a comment in here that we asked that they keep the increase from year to year limited to 3%. Did what, 1.3% this year?
No, nothing went up.
Okay.
Both Jonathan and I brought that up, and we were commenting on what we had discussed back in 2018, where we had talked about that. I think you brought it up.
Yeah, it was, in the previous contract, it was a 2-year agreement with no 1 to 3%. 1 over 3% would come back to a vote. So now it's an annual contract, so every year is going to come back to a vote.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, vote.
Okay, carrying on. Ms. Materney,
Yes.
Mr. Coolman,
Yes.
Ms. Bourne.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Planning and zoning?
No report, Your Honor. We are scheduled to meet, I'm looking at Mary Jo, I think it's April 6th.
Is that April 1st?
I believe that's correct.
I think it's April 1st, right?
The first Wednesday?
We, in our email chain, I think it was April 1st.
What's that?
So the email chain we had, I believe,
Yes,
was
it's
April
April
1st.
Okay. We'll hold it for now. I'm gonna follow Barry's lead, so we'll maintain that for now, but it's likely that it'll change again, because we were pushing to get it here by April 7th for council. Well, we don't need to worry about that anymore, so we'll likely change the date, but for now, that will be the date.
Thank you.
End of report.
Personnel?
No report. As far as our agenda is concerned, there's only is it the safety coordinator position? Is that going to be on our next agenda potentially?
Yes, that item, as well as perhaps the continuation of the discussion of the personnel handbook. But again, whatever's in the best interest of
Okay, our meeting's
outside
set
employees.
for March 24th. I'm gonna, with my committee's support, I guess I'll ask you on that one. I would like to suspend that meeting until the next council meeting, with the understanding that you can bring legislation before the full council. I believe that's the recommendation that President of Council is making.
It's up to, if you wanted to come to council, you can. If not, you can just push the meeting back to the,
I would just suspend my meeting. I think that's going to be too soon for us to handle that, with the understanding that legislation could be presented that night to council as a whole. Nothing else?
You also have to do something that you could also just introduce it and have it read at council and go to your committee meeting.
Okay.
Public utilities?
No report, Your Honor. Per the conversation I've had with the administration, there really isn't anything that's going to be on the agenda for the public utilities for the month of March. April's going to be a loaded plate anyways. It was already designed that way with several contracts that will be potentially coming in at that point. So we're just going to go ahead and cancel the March 25th meeting, and we will most likely be holding our April 22nd meeting. So the next meeting will be scheduled for April 22nd at 6:30 p.m. With that, I know the administration, there was some conversation about presenting to council by one of our council members on suspending the shut-offs. I think the administration has already been able to find a way to do that. With that, I don't know if it would take council action if there is ways to avoid late fees or anything during that same time, or is that something that would be to take a council action?
Specifically what?
Shut-offs.
Shutting that water off.
For not payment?
Right. Still do, but we're not gonna turn people off. We don't do it very often now.
I would like to propose, Mayor, that we consider, and I mentioned this to Jonathan today, there was a family in Perrysburg, you may have seen the article in January, that was affected by a possible water shut-off in December, and I tried to do everything I could within reason. So I did find out that Fifth Third Bank could help them set up some money that people could donate so they could pay their bills. What they're looking to do is just make payments. And I think with anybody who has a financial hardship, particularly what's happening on right now with the coronavirus, that we consider that.
Certainly. I mean, I'm not sure what the situation is, but certainly.
So,
I was just going to suggest, after reviewing the water rules and speaking with Administrator Cabot and Director of Public Utilities, Ms. Godsey, those rules are discretionary within the Director of Public Utilities. I did advise Ms. Godsey that a motion in support of a moratorium on shutoffs from council would give her some additional backing for her decision. But I believe right now the city is willing to work in coordination with the district. There's a commingling of billing, so there were some issues that might be there, and I believe the district has responded that they are also withholding shutoffs up to a certain point. So with that being said, the administration and Ms. Gotts can work together with the district to kind of allow a seamless coordination of those dates, but certainly it could be coming back to council in a report by your next meeting saying, this is the status of where we're at, certainly with whatever's going on in the world.
I don't know if anybody's familiar, but it's the Page family.
I think Councilman Coolman may be interested in
Making a motion?
Yes.
Yeah, I would make a motion that we, as a council, approve the moratorium on water, the support for moratorium. Administration position on a moratorium on water shutoffs. Fancy words. Yeah.
I'll second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Okay, Ms. Bourne,
Yes, and I think it's a good idea, Corey.
Mr. Coolman,
Yes.
Ms. Materney,
Yes.
Mr. Matuzak,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen.
Yes.
Any other business to come before council?
Please be safe and healthy, everybody.
Move to adjourn.
So moved.